What's going on, YouTube? Got another guide for you here today, and it is the Cold Twisters and Lightning Spear Huntress. We convert all of our lightning damage to cold, and everything is kind of based on physical damage from the start. So the build feels fantastic. We've been able to beat, 3 of the breach bosses and, 3 of the audience with the kings and, get all of our atlas fully open. And all that kind of stuff. So as far as the, mapping and things, we've gotten through our T15s and 16s and 17s and killed all the bosses and all that kind of stuff. There's still some stuff we have to do. We have to beat the last few, the tier 4 breach boss and all that kind of stuff. But, with some min-maxing, my weapon's not great and stuff like that. It shouldn't be a problem. It's been breezing through all the other content pretty well. So we'll go ahead and get right into it and get started. So we'll go ahead and start with the skill gems so you get an idea of what we're doing here. We use infused weapon that comes from our ascendancy. We'll go through that. That is cold exposure, blindside, rising tempest, strip away, and pinpoint critical. Nothing special there. Lightning spear, this is our main mapping. So we basically just run around throwing lightning spears and it explodes screens. You would have saw some clips on the front end, and it's basically all you need. Occasionally we will use our barrage to give us some extra projectiles and make it hit a little bit harder, but I typically only use that in situations where I'm in danger or I'm getting surrounded or something like that, because it will burn all of your, or most likely burn all of your frenzy charges, so then you'll go down to 0 and you'll have to regenerate them. But it is nice to kind of get yourself out of a tight situation. Whirling Slash, this is what we use in conjunction with Twister to just fill up the room with twisters, and it's pretty awesome. So basically, Whirling Slash, we use Bludgeon, Martial Tempo, Magnified Effect, and Font of Rage. So we gain Rage while we're standing in it, and then Bludgeon is nice just because it knocks things back as we're spinning and preparing to launch all of our twisters, and it just keeps things away from us from running up on us and meleeing and stuff like that. So as far as Twister, we use Acceleration, Long Shot, Persistence, Heft, and Salvo. And so what we do here again is we just, as we're waiting for the boss to spawn in, we might stand in our Whirling Slash, because as we're standing in it, we gain Rage. So we can, as it's doing its little thing and dancing around, we'll usually just stand here, let this fill up. And once we throw, we'll hit, as he's starting to spawn in, we'll hit Barrage. And then we'll hit our twisters, and then we'll just rinse and repeat. So 3 charges, barrage, twisters, and as you can see, and as you're starting to gain frenzy charges, you'll start putting out more and more and more and more and more. So you're able to, really get this filled up. We stack a ton of skill effect duration and stuff like that, so they stay up for a really long time. So that's how you go about doing that. If it's a boss that, maybe is going to, it's a bigger boss fight, I might throw out my hypothermia, and this just stays on the ground. It lasts about 12-13 seconds because we have so much skill effect duration. So this benefits from all of the skill effect duration we added to our twisters, and I'll just throw that out. But that's typically, again, you throw it out once, just leave it there, and let the boss, do its thing, fight you, whatever, and you can be throwing out your twisters and all that stuff, and it's good to go. So again, barrage. We use twofold: premeditation, perpetual charge, and ingenuity. It just helps us have access to barrage more quickly. Now, what I will say is some people are using the new inhibitor. So I'm sure I'll get some questions about inhibitor, and this is supported skills cannot consume charges, but supported skills deal 4% damage per different type of charge on you. So I think there was a little bit of confusion, and correct me if I'm wrong, from my understanding, the way this works is you do not get the benefit of the charges. You get 4% more damage per charge. So this is better if you're a pure lightning spear build, because you don't want barrage to consume the charges. You want lightning spear to consume the charges. You just are giving it extra damage from this, right? So when you use barrage, you still get the benefit of, the default benefit of repeats 2 times, but it won't repeat additional times because it is not consuming charges. It is giving damage based on those charges, and then it allows lightning spear to then consume the charge. So if you are a pure lightning spear build and you are not using twisters, then inhibitor is fantastic in barrage. If you're using this to use twisters and kill bosses with all that kind of stuff, you do not want to use inhibitor, because we want barrage to take advantage of our frenzy charges so that we get a lot of extra projectiles. So it repeats multiple times, more than 2. So I did want to go over that because I'm sure this will become a question. This is not good for twisters. This is amazing for lightning spears. So it's unfortunate we kind of land in the middle somewhere, but that's where we are with inhibitor. Fantastic gem, unbelievable lightning spear. It is not what we want for twisters. So I do want to get that out in the world there because I'm sure that question will come. I'm sure it still will. Combat frenzy. This is one of the ways we generate our frenzy charges. We use profusion and cannibalism. Anytime we freeze, electrocute, or pin an enemy, we obviously don't electrocute or pin, but we do freeze a lot. So you can generate a charge this way every 4.2 seconds. As you level it up, it gets faster and faster. We use Wind Dancer with Wind Wave and Precision. Herald of Ice with Cold Mastery, Cold Infusion, and Reach. Cast on crit, and this will be the last thing that you use, and I do want to go over your other option is, or in place of it is a companion, and I'll go over your options there. But this is obviously the final setup. So in our cast on crit, we use Sniper's Mark, Energy Retention, Impetus, and Fluke. You can use Ingenuity here if you prefer it, if you want more access to your Sniper's Mark. But we use it in Barrage just because, again, I feel like it benefits us the most, but you can put it in there if you wanted. Lastly, we have the Hypothermia with Heightened Curse, Cursed Ground, and Expanse. So again, cast on crit will probably be the last thing that you add. And in its place, you can use a companion. There's 2 different versions, and it's kind of based on the boots that you're using. That'll kind of segue us into the gear. These boots, basically what they do is they constantly drop shocked ground. So what that does is while you have shocked ground, your whirling slash as well as your twisters will take on that damage as 50% of damage as extra. So we do all physical damage, mostly physical damage. So 50% of that damage is added as extra lightning. But then with our ring, we convert all of our lightning damage to cold. So this ring right here is the most important piece of the puzzle. They're not expensive. This one might be because it has a good corruption on it. But see, they're about 20 exalt, so nothing crazy. But this is the only item that is absolutely necessary. These feel good, and we absolutely use these for bosses. But there are other ways to kind of generate elements on your twisters and whatnot. So here we go. So if you want to use Wake of Destruction, which is what I did early, let me walk out of that so it stops making the noise. You want to use this early, but you walk around really slow. The default is 10% movement speed. What you can do is you can get a companion that has this haste aura right here. And what that'll do is it'll give you an extra 10% movement speed and I believe a 10% attack speed. So you can get a companion that has that, and then you can it's the equivalent of having 20% movement speed boots, but you also get a little bit of attack speed out of it. You can also get a corruption here with like 3 to 5 movement speed. So you could potentially be at like 25 movement speed with this companion running around with you. So that was kind of what I landed on as I was leveling that felt the best. I really hate running around super slow, but this was kind of the best solution, was this along with your aura, your companion that has aura. And I'll show you here in a second the best way to go and get those. And this is the way to level. This does feel good to have your companions. So these are both haste aura. Your other option is this one here. So this one does Trail of Ice. So as the minion walks, it drops a trail of ice. So then you can use normal movement speed boots or evasion or whatever you need on your boots, and then you can use your minion's Trail of Ice to then generate cold for your, because it doesn't matter if you generate cold ground chilled ground or shocked ground, because if it's shocked, it's just going to convert to cold. If it's cold, it's already cold, so it doesn't matter. So that's your other way to do that, is use a Trail of Ice companion that as he walks around, he leaves a trail of ice. And here, let me go ahead and show you this real quick. So if we add, oh no, it won't show it because we're not in a map. But see, as he spawns in, there are some issues with this now, and this is why I ended up going with the haste aura and the boots, because again, you can get 30% movement speed or whatever, but So what happens is, number one, he only has it on while you are engaged with an enemy. So if you're waiting for the boss or whatever, and if it's not counted as being in the arena, his trail of ice won't start until it's in the arena. And then what he's going to do is he's going to fucking run off. So he's going to run away from you, and he will leave a trail, but you'll have to kind of adjust onto the trail, right? The other issue is that he dies sometimes, especially if you're fighting something that hits really hard. He will get one shot and then he comes right back, but that does create a little bit of downtime for your more damaging twisters. So it does get this is better, I think, for mapping as you're running around, because there are less things to kill it, and usually he's right there with you. In bosses, you're typically trying to stay away a little bit, and he's a melee character, so he's running over there. So it's kind of, he's not as good for bossing. The aura with the boots is kind of the better feeling setup. So again, that's what I would go with: Wake of Destruction boots, and then a haste aura. Now, I do want to say there is one that is called hasted, as you can see on this one. That means that only the minion gets the buff. It has to be haste aura for you and the minion to both get it. So just keep that in mind. I made the mistake of grabbing hasted first, and then obviously it didn't work on me, so I had to go back and find a haste aura. The way that you do this, and see, now what I do at this point is I have enough damage where I don't have to use my twisters in maps and stuff like that. So I use normal boots, and I only put these on for bosses. So I run around with 30% movement speed, you know, all that kind of stuff, evasion, you know. And then when I go into a boss room, then I just flip on the boots. I make sure my resistances are all good currently, just so you guys are aware. So we're at 110, 92, 83, 21. And then when we switch these, we go to 90, 83, 92, 14. So we do lose a little bit of chaos res, but it is what it is for now. So that's currently what I do. That didn't feel good until I had good boots that were worth doing this for. The hate and crit and basically cast on crit, I think, is when I made the transition to just swapping it. I will say Snoobe, I don't know if you guys saw, he released a video where he wears these all the time, and he kind of uses Whirling Slash as a movement skill. I gave it a try. It just really wasn't for me, and so that's that. But okay, so we got that out of the way. That's kind of the nuances of the build. Now you guys, you know, you can get through that, and now we'll get into the actual gear. So we do have a sea glass spear is the best because it has a base crit of 10, so you don't technically have to get crit chance rolled onto it. Your important modifiers are accuracy, the flat accuracy, attack speed, and then fizz. That flat. So ideally, this is not a great spear by any means. In fact, I was using this one previously, and this is a really nice spear, traditionally speaking, right? And in certain ways, it is better damage as far as just pure hit, but the attack speed is so meaningful on this build that it's just not better. And the accuracy adds a ton of flat damage. So it's interesting. This spear that you're looking at here, that does not look good at all. It is better than this one that looks really, really good. And so for this particular build, and I am going to craft on this one and stuff a little bit more, and try to turn that lightning into accuracy. That would kind of be the ideal here. And then, you know, we need to get that dexterity into attack speed. So we'll probably mess with this one a little bit, or maybe just sell it and craft a different one. We'll see what happens. But just to kind of keep that in perspective, this spear that looks insane is not better than this one that looks awful. So like attack speed, flat accuracy, so plus 450, and you'll see, you know, if that, we'll get into the ascendancy, you'll see why. And then, you know, a little bit of flat lightning damage is fine, or cold or whatever, but you know, try to stay away from fire's fine. It'll be a little bit of extra damage, but it's not gonna heavily benefit like cold or lightning would, because we juice up all that damage. So that's that. We use the Hands of Wisdom in action. I just use normal rare gloves with, you know, some flat damage and some life and all that kind of stuff until I could get these. And then we just have chaos res as far as our runes go. And here again, we do put accuracy. We just flat accuracy is our best stat in the game for so many reasons. It gives flat physical damage while it's on your weapon, and then it gives attack speed and crit chance everywhere else. It is absolutely ridiculous. I should have went into that. If you guys want to see our crit chance on lightning spear is 102 to 122%, and then our crit chance on twisters is 82 to 111. We do need to get this up a little bit, but the crit chance is absolutely insane. Belt, nothing special. Resistances and life. Boots, these ones, nothing special, just movement speed, life. You know, there's some rarity, dex, you know, all that kind of stuff. Wake of Destruction, we've already went over these. Call of the Brotherhood, I corrupted this and hit 27% increased damage, which is awesome. But, you know, whatever you can get is fine. Our other ring is just attributes, leech. So because our twisters are based on physical damage and then cold is added, we do a lot of physical damage. So you can get a little bit of leech in their life and mana. To give yourself, you know, you don't have to use your flash charges ever in boss fights. So it feels really good if you have some leech on mana. I had it on the gloves and all that until I moved to this, and then I had to move it to a ring. Helmet, accuracy, life, attributes, resistances, rarity, standard stuff. Body armor, you do need spirit. 50, well, you need a total of 205 spirit, excuse me. You need a total of 205 spirit to run everything that I'm running. So we have 50 here, and then we have another 53 on our amulet. But again, other than the spirit, you know, life, evasion, resistances, you know, all this kind of standard stuff. Amulet, we have accuracy, life, spirit, some attributes, you know, whatever you can get, but the important ones are spirit, and accuracy, and life. Everything else is, you know, get whatever you need. We do have protraction on right now, and that is giving us duration of damaging ailments, which is kind of whatever, but the skill effect duration is insane for keeping up our twisters. As far as our buckler, we just use a rare one so we can get some resistances and all that kind of stuff. You can use like Kosade, which will double your accuracy and just absolutely blasts your crit chance and all that kind of stuff up. I'm at a point where I prefer the rare. I have my accuracy and all that stuff as high as I like it. I actually prefer the defenses currently. So that's kind of where I'm at. You can use either one. This will cap your crit chance, but you're going to lose some evasion and some resistances and maybe some attributes and some other things that you might need or want. So just keep that in mind. But like Kosade is another option, and they are fairly cheap. I think you can get them for, this one has a good corruption on it, so it's a little bit more. But they're about 15 exalt, something like that. So nothing crazy. That is an option if you want. All right, so now getting through that a little bit, we'll get into the tree. And so basically, as far as ascendancy, we take our elemental, well, let me tell you in the order. So first, we're going to take predatory instinct, and this just makes it easier to kill bosses and stuff like that. Next, we will take critical strike, and depending on if you have a spear that has good flat accuracy on it, then take penetrate. If you don't, then take elemental infusion. But if you have a spear that has good accuracy, flat accuracy on it, then this is a massive, massive damage increase, and I think is better than this. If you just have a regular old you know, something that looks more like this, even though it looks fantastic, take elemental infusion until you do have a accuracy spear. So that's the ascendancy. We cruise through attack speed, all that kind of stuff. Accuracy here. As far as jewels, we have cold damage, mana on kill, skill effect duration. Those are all pretty nice. This is a really nice jewel for us. Cold damage, crit chance, skill effect duration, and then increased area of effect for curses because, you know, we use the curse ground and all that kind of stuff. The area effect of curses is absolutely not necessary. The other three were the ones I was looking for, and that just happened to be on it, so that was kind of nice. As far as our Against the Darkness, we use damage as extra lightning, so then that gives us a chance to now shock and get the damage from shock. And then, you know, a little bit of cold pen. Up here we have damage with spear, or, you know, damage with spears, attack speed with spears, accuracy, more crit stuff up here. So again, nothing super crazy. We take our evasion. We are not using acrobatics currently. If I can get my evasion high enough, I will slot that in. And then, you know, we take, again, more stuff down here. This is some damage and stuff against bosses, crit chance, accuracy, crit chance, skill effect duration. And yeah, so that's that. Nothing crazy. We get a 50% cold because we have Herald of Ice, so this is a nice one as well. There is this here that you get increased crit damage, reduced crit chance. So this is a big damage increase. But I want to get and I will take this eventually, as I think I'm a level, what am I, 92. So when I hit 95 or so, I should have items that then I should have my crit capped and it won't be as big of a deal. But I don't want to lose any crit chance currently until I get it capped on twisters. So that's that. And just to kind of cap it off, I do have a Mobalytics here, as well as a POB. So all the links will all be in the description, and you can kind of go, and then all of Mobalytics will have the POB and all that. But all this stuff is going to be available. I go over what I use to level. Personally, I use the bleed gems, but you would be fine using lightning spear and twisters and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that bleed really early on, and it might be different for your second character because you'll have some leveling uniques and stuff like that. But early on, this felt like the best combo for the first couple acts, and then once I got myself a spear with good attack speed on it, that's when I switched over, and it felt fine. So it's up to you. Again, feel free to level with kind of all this stuff, and then you'll just use the gems that as you get them, that are already in the things. You won't have to make any changes. But if you do want to go with the bleed stuff, this is what I was using early, and it felt pretty good. So okay, and while we're sitting here, let me also mention, I'm sure I'll get some questions about Dance with Death, and I did use it early on before I had attack speed in the build and all that kind of stuff. I did use it, but it did get to a point where I felt like I needed the survivability more than I needed the attack speed. And then eventually, now that I'm in the end game, I just simply don't need it. I have enough attack speed to do what I need to do. So it is what it is. And that's use it as long as you need to, but eventually you're probably going to feel like you need some defenses and you're going to want to go ahead and grab the shield. It is good for the first couple acts though, when it's really difficult to get attack speed. Especially if you're using twisters. If you're not using twisters and whirling slash and you're going to use the bleed setup, then this doesn't. You probably won't ever take this. By the time you switch over, you should have enough attack speed to just throw a buckler or a shield right in. So that's that. Again, all the links will be in the description. I'll be live, again tomorrow if you guys want to come check it out or if you have questions. Appreciate everybody. Like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, guys.